What is up, guys? Welcome to this new video. In this video I will quickly go over the patch notes of today, which is the 17th of September 2025, and we got some pretty big changes to how consumables work and stack, I guess, because their categories have been changed, and there's some small other changes which we'll get to as well. So without further ado, let's get started. So the patch notes start off with a little text as per usual. The longer the stalkers dwell in the north, the more legends and rumors appear in their stories. But are they all true? The wanderers and allies from your faction you pass by in the north can now tell you what happens in the area, whether it's artifact hunting, storming outposts, or something else. However, lately, their stories have started to seem increasingly strange and even eerie. The zone has begun to reveal hidden fears, reality is distorting, and piercing screams of the unknown echo throughout the night. And more often, the same advice is repeated. Don't turn around at the sound of footsteps behind you. Don't move, and don't answer calls from broken phones. Or, take a risk and find out where it leads. In this patch notes, you will find outpost changes, painting of short-range detectors, exits from Klondike, arsenal updates, complaint system updates, balance and consumable adjustments, and other improvements. So first of all, the outpost changes. I was really excited at first for this because I thought it was the big outpost rework that was coming, but it looks like we're still gonna have to wait a little while on that. But once that drops, you'll also find that here on the channel. So outpost changes. Previously, you might have not received rewards from outposts when the eruption began. This has been fixed. If an outpost event is cancelled by an eruption, the outpost will be captured by the faction with more than 50% capture progress. If there's no such faction, but more than 5 minutes have passed since the boss was killed, the outpost will go to the faction with the most progress. In both cases, all participants of the event will receive the appropriate reward by email. So that's it for the for the outpost changes. Yeah, like I said, I was hoping it was going to be the outpost rework, but it looks like we're still going to have to wait on that. Although I do think this is a good change because it was super annoying that the outpost, just when you were doing it and the eruption hit and you just didn't get anything for it. So I'm happy they at least changed that. Then painting of short-range detectors. They've now added the ability to paint short-range detectors. Weapon paints are used for this purpose. Yeah, I think that's a nice addition. That's cool. Then exits from Klondike. New exit points from Klondikes have been added to the labyrinth. Again, sure, nice handy update, I guess. Then there have been quite some arsenal changes as well. So arsenal updates. The removal of limits on sales to arsenal. We have taken into account your feedback regarding the limits on selling resources to arson. These restrictions have been removed. Due to the removal of limits on the sale of resources to Arsenal, it was decided to revise the prices of certain items. This is kind of annoying, but I mean, I guess it makes sense because there's no limit on it now. I don't know if it's a buff or a nerf. It kind of depends on how much you're planning to sell, I guess. Like if you were always at the point where you I have so many more things to sell and I can't because of the limit, then I guess this is kind of a buff for you, although with the price decreasing, it might be a nerf. I'm not too sure about this. So, like you can see, these items all have changed their sale value. The same goes for Drossel. Then Arsenal's daily tasks. They've returned Arsenal's test drive task. It becomes available if you've upgraded at least one weapon at the Arsenal. The quest will not be available if you upgrade attachments. And then in the near future, everyone who lost paints while completing the test drive task will receive compensation for those paints. Then updates to the complaint system. This is an interesting one as well. The penalty classification system for violations has been revised. The progression has become smoother, but you will receive longer penalties for serious violations. If you do not receive any penalties for a long period of time, the progression cycle starts over again. So an updated list of reasons you can complain. First, offensive content. 2, forbidden character name. 3, sexualized content. 4, illegal content. 5, political content. 6, unsolicited advertisement. 7, gambling or fraud. 8, personal data. 9, personal account data. 10, provocation of ethnic hatred. 11, racism, sexism, or discrimination. So these are all options you can select now. I'm curious to see how this is gonna work, because also some of these are so vague, like political content. I don't know, I guess if you talk about the politics of certain factions, that might become confusing. We'll see how that works out. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my experience, it's not like they ban people that quick anyway, so I guess they will probably give people benefit of the doubt most of the times anyway. Then complaints on profile. Now you can report a player on their personal profile description button. So you can submit a complaint if the profile description contains insults, provocations, advertising, and so forth. Complaints are not available if the player does not have a description. And then a prohibited software button. This you can use to report if you suspect the player of using cheats or third-party software. And this can only, be used every 7 days. Then complaints on emails has also been added. You can now report a player's email. To report it, go to the email interface and click the report button. Then the big one, balance changes, consumable adjustments. They've reduced types of consumable effects. Weak boost and strong boost are now merged into boost. Strength improvement and stamina improvement are now merged into mobility. And bleeding protection and burn protection are now merged into protection. I'm not too sure how I feel about this, because I did kind of like that you were able to like combine quite a couple of different ones and make like your own kind of consumable build almost with it, So I'm not too sure how I feel about this, especially the weak and strong boost and the strength improvement, the stamina improvement. Like that's, I don't know, it's the days of chugging a Jiden and an Arnie tonic are over. But yeah, anyway, let's look at what has changed. The changes were made to reduce the number of consumables that need to be used simultaneously to get the maximum bonuses. For example, previously it was necessary to use both pea soup and alcohol to obtain the maximum weight from the sum of weak and strong boosts. But now one pea soup or alcohol from the new boost category is enough. Due to the reduction in the types of effects, the characteristics of many consumables have been revised. Now consumables in the affected categories have bias towards one property as several, depending on the consumable level, additional properties that are weaker. The main property on average became stronger than the sum of the same properties from the previously combined categories, while the secondary properties became slightly weaker. For example, previously a character could gain a maximum of 4.2% vitality from using weak and strong 10 level boosts. Now they can gain 4.6% vitality from using a single 10 level boost, which main property is vitality, but the sum of secondary properties will be weaker. Food now has a bias towards vitality, while drinks have a bias towards speed. There's some general balance adjustments as well, like reduced sway duration after using certain consumables, reduced excessive rollback time for some consumables, and all consumables with the following effects, boost, protection, and mobility, no longer drop upon death, except industrial, alcohol, and consumables from direct sales by the supplier. So like a lot of stuff don't even drop upon death anymore, I guess. So a lot of characteristic adjustments, like as you can see, for example, the hemostat and the astraxin have gotten their bleeding buffed, and then some of their other things like slightly nerfed. So this is honestly pretty huge. Like, wait, here we get to the Arnie tonic. Carry weight has been massively increased, and its effect no longer disappears upon death, which looks great, but you cannot combine it with Jiden anymore. So essentially you'll have to choose like more carry weight or speed if you consume one of these two. So because of this, because of the relatively limited amount of things you can buy from the supplier anyway, hideout crafting of consumables is gonna become way more important again. And I think that this could be okay. This could be a fine like change, but since the hideout is still kind of underutilized and I'm gonna be honest, not that fun to use currently, and they're still working on the hideout rework, I feel like this update could have come either with or be after the hideout rework, because now I think this is gonna hike the prices of a lot of the better consumables by a lot, and there's gonna be less options that you can buy from the supplier. So that's another reason why I'm not too sure how I feel about this. Looking at, for example, the Jiden energy drink, its speed is now 2% instead of 1.7, and its effect no longer disappears upon death, but you can't, for example, combine it with an Arnie tonic anymore. So that's kind of why I'm saying, like, I don't know about how I feel about this. I guess honestly, if you're going for speed and carry weight at the same time, the Atlas Anabolic Steroid might honestly be your best choice now. Although it doesn't have stamina regen, it still gives you a lot of extra carry weight. And it also gives you, 1.7 speed, which is essentially what a Jiden used to give you. So I think that this is honestly at this point better. Same with the Salt Anabolic Steroid, as you can see. So there are other options, but I'm still not entirely sure whether this is the right moment to introduce these changes. Also precisely because of the kind of underutilization of the hideout because of the variety of reasons. And I think these reasons should have been addressed first. Let's quickly see. because I don't want to I don't want to spread misinformation. Yeah, okay, this is, I wasn't sure, but you cannot buy any of the steroids at the vendor. So I think that's also like what I'm saying. That makes it kind of problematic, because you, like, if you don't have access to the hideout, or you don't, you know, have the level yet in the hideout because it's so grindy, you are essentially like not able to use any of the steroids except for codes, which, or like crates, which luckily at least that's one option for more begin or mid-game players to get access to this. But still, that's kind of unfortunate in my opinion, because it would have been nice if you were able to buy steroids at the vendor, at least, since now you can't use both of these at the same time anymore. I also just realized that you can't even craft steroids, so I don't know, like, aside from crates, you can't really get them anyway. So I'll just take back what I just said, I guess, in a way. Like, it's just, you just have to have them from crates, I guess. But yeah, like, let's, for example, go look at, yeah, alcohol. So, for example, Alcohol gives you 3.8 movement speed, 34 carry weight, and like less recoil and stuff. Yeah, like what I'm saying is more of like, if you look, this is all like very high level, and it's hard to find anything that gives both movement speed and carry weight that isn't above like level 4 essentially, and that's kind of unfortunate in my opinion, because it does hit, again, beginner players or mid-game players the hardest, which is, like I said, quite unfortunate. I guess you can still combine an enhancement, I guess, that gives carry weight with a boost that gives movement speed, but still. But yeah, anyway, let me know down below how you feel about this change. Like I said, I have my doubts about the time for introduction of this change. I do think it can be interesting, and it, you know, it makes you need to think about it more. You need to make very strategic choices with what you take, which I do like. But then on the other hand, I also think there should be a way to get rid of these effects without having to die. But I guess actually a lot of these don't even disappear when you die, because I think, for example, if I'm going PvPing, right, and use Vitality, then 15 minutes later, since all the effects almost last like 30 minutes, most of them now, you know, I have 50 minutes of Vitality left, but I want to start using speed, you know? And I think there it becomes just more of tedious rather than strategic. So it would be cool, like, I don't know, like for example in Minecraft, you can drink milk to cleanse your effects. It would be nice if we have a mechanic like this of some sort, where we can kind of get rid of all the effects we have currently to start a new thing, especially now that there's less categories to choose from, because previously still you could compensate it a little bit if you were going to change like your playstyle or what you were doing by using like a different type of food, you know. But this is kind of, there's some gaps that are quite needed in my opinion that have not been addressed here, which makes the update kind of underwhelming in my opinion, and maybe not even that nice to play with. So yeah. Then they've also changed some of the consumable prices, which honestly that was to be expected. So mostly things have gotten expensive. Then changes to hideout recipes, so they have tried to address some of these, but still it doesn't make the fact that you need like level 5 for most of these disappear, and that is the main problem with the hideout, because it's so grindy to just get luck from level 4 to 5. So yeah, Alcohol Bull, its requirements have been reduced, same for Unforgettable Cocktails, same for Geyser Vodka, same for Jolly Lemonade, and same for Panacea. So sure, it's above, but you know, that doesn't mean that everybody has access to these recipes anyway. Then some other changes. The Arsenal XM8 has got its damage slightly increased. The SR3M has actually gotten its recoil increased, both its vertical and horizontal, and the built-in LD compensation has been removed because the SR3 and SR3M now will get, you know, like a model update, so they will get rails back. Then the 6-hour P320 has gotten its base magazine reload time decreased, and its tactical reload time also decreased. Then they fixed the presence of LD compensation for the XM8S. The Snowstorm, Napalm, and Plantain underbarrel grenades have now characteristics equal to their handheld equivalents. And they've adjusted the weight of the overton container from 7.85 to 9.2 kilograms, so a nerf. So I don't think people are going to be happy with this one, since the overton container already got made like kind of worse with the whole container rework. And then the adjusted weight of the 9A91 silencer has been increased slightly. Then other changes and fixes. They've added rumor mechanics to the northern locations. Now at faction bases and in the open world, NPCs can tell you about the area. Everything has its own story. This is like a nice introduction. I think it's pretty cool just for world building and immersion. Then fixed the bug where the signal during the WRD scanning could be terminated immediately after scanning began. Fixed the incorrect display of glowing paints in the player profile. They've added ambience to locations Lubech, Serpentine and Institute. The Pripyat Streets assault map has been removed from the list of session maps. Updated the gunshot sounds for the DSA-58, SA-58, CTC and the Evenfall. They've updated the character landing sound. They've updated model animations and interaction sounds for the SR3M, so like I'm saying, the new model is here. They've updated the models of the KZS-M and the KZS-MU. They've updated the models of the 4.45 x39 caliber muzzles. They've updated models of the 5.56 x45 caliber muzzles, and they have increased the number of players required to complete the warm-up on Deathmatch Hospital and Deathmatch Ghost 17, and Arms Race Ghost 17 and Deathmatch Glass maps has been increased from 4 to 6. They fixed multiple naming inconsistency bugs related to open world activities. They fixed multiple translation inconsistency bugs across all languages, and they fixed the translation of several legacy items. And they've also corrected several minor localization bugs in all languages. Alright, that was it for this video. If you found it helpful, let me know. Let me know also what you think of these consumable changes. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you think they are introduced at the right time? Or do you also think that there should be some additional changes? Let me know what you think of the arsenal changes. Is it a buff or is it a nerf? Let me know down below. If you want to stay up to date with Stalcraft updates and content, don't forget to subscribe, as you will find videos on all these things on my channel. If you want to watch some more Stalcraft content, you can click here on the left for some gameplay content, or you can click here on the right for some case openings. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the zone, stalkers.